Binary Domain, originally released in 2012 and developed by Ryu Ga Gotoku Studios, who's nowadays more well known for making the Yakuza Sons of a Dragon franchise, with this game instead being a new IP and a third-person shooter, although I do know the multiplayer mode does include characters from the Yakuza franchise as a bonus, but that's not what we're focusing on. We're focusing on Binary Domain. So the main premise is that after global warming caused a planet to flood, a lot of civilization got killed off in the process. So in order to make up for this decrease in manpower, robots were created, with Bergen, an American company, being the ones to basically supply the planet with robots for labor force. But a Japanese company named Amada tried to sue for supposedly stealing their technology in a patent dispute, but the fact that Bergen has way more influence in the world caused the lawsuit to completely fail, with Bergen basically having the overwhelming dominance of the robotic industry. Due to the concerns of, creating robots as labor force, a new regime convention was created with one very specific clause outlined. Clause 21. Robots cannot be made to pass off as humans. So of course someone starts making robots to pass off as humans, with them being dubbed Hollow Children, and these robots can be made not even knowing that they were robots the entire time. They can live their life just fine and then have the same shock as everyone else that they're actually a robot. This is where the player and the crew comes in, being dubbed one of the Rust crews, whose goal it is to infiltrate Japan, and Emperor Amada, who is the one under suspicion of creating Hollow Children. I love the fact that you start out with just two characters, Dan and Bo, but then later on you do meet more members of the Rust crews, and it just becomes an entire World Warrior bunch going after Amada, having characters from just different parts of the world all coming together. I do like that one entire aspect when it comes to the team you create about this game. I really like this game's story and how it plays out, and also the fact that there are moments where you can pick certain people to take with you during certain parts of the mission, and I love the fact that they actually do animate different cutscenes depending on who you take with you and the response to the situation you take with you, circumstances. That is freaking cool what they thought about, hey, what if the player took this person with them in this variation, different conversations, and stuff like that, along with each character in their own unique skill set. We'll talk more about the gameplay section, but this is a really cool way of just handling the story. And with the game's main mechanic being a loyalty system, it also means that certain events you can get if you manage to actually get a high enough loyalty with your squad, which is freaking cool. Granted, it's just as easy to lose loyalty with F up, but it is a really cool way that you get more with them, more time with them, learn more about them, and there are these break sections throughout the story where you do just get to just have a little idle chit chat with the characters and affect the loyalty relationship, which is once again a freaking cool way of handling it.
Safe I had to shoot a man in the eye from 100 paces. Everything useful I ever learnt came from a book. First item on the agenda once this mission's over. Get back to my studies.
Look at this place compared to those slums. Hard to believe we're in the same country. Mind you, I suppose even England isn't much different. Inequality's global. Wherever you go in the world, you always find the poor driven out and marginalized. Robots are free to go about as they please, while people starve down in the slums. But when they try to do something about it, they get labeled as terrorists. Hardly fair. Still, with the planet half flooded like it is, I guess there isn't much time for kindness.
I went into this game not knowing that there would be alternate scenes of this game that could be completely missed out. Like when the achievements told me that a scene popped up that I got and mentioned something specific in the achievement description, I was like, wait, are there like alternate of any answers? Yes, there's even multiple variants of the game's ending as well, depending on certain factors, which is freaking cool to this game and freaking great. That is awesome to see. I didn't expect this game to have that kind of aspect to it, and it's freaking cool. Now on to the gameplay. First and foremost, to highlight the game's main feature when I put a selling point. The fact that you can use a microphone of any kind in order to directly speak to the characters and give them orders, everything. On top of a loyalty system, which will dictate whether or not they actually listen to the order you give them on top of that. Although the microphone own idea they had does not work right, because half the time they'll just not know what you're talking about whatsoever. But they thought about that, and you could just use button prompts instead in order to dish out orders or respond to people, which is probably the better option. And it just kind of feels awkward. This is a big selling point they wanted to have with the game, and it kind of doesn't really work whatsoever. And with the way it handles also means that there will be moments where characters will just be talking to you, the player, as Dan, and moment where you just respond, but Dan won't say the response out loud because they kind of expected the player themselves to say it out loud. So use the button prompts. You'll just have Dan being silent and just see the text on screen. It just feels weird in that aspect. Binary Domain, Patricia said earlier, is a third-person shooter, a card-based third-person shooter at that, in a time span where those were like damn a dozen. But what sets it apart is the fact that your opponents are robots, and there's cool aspects they do with it, like the fact that if you show a robot's head, it will actually not know who's friend or foe. It'll essentially just start helping you out for a bit before your enemy starts shooting it down and everything, which is cool, especially since trying to do that is not the easiest, since there are times we'll do a headshot and just kill the robot flat out. So it is cool just get a headshot and have the temporary help you out, which is super cool to have. Or you could just go for a limb, since they're robots, just immediately break off parts of their limbs, like just shooting the legs. But also because they're robots, it means they don't die immediately to regular fatal blows, meaning there could be instances where you show a robot, think it's dead, and the damn thing is crawling towards you and you didn't even notice. I like the whole entire aspect of, yes, they're robots, so take everything advantage. On top of the fact that since they're robots, you also have other machines try and drop them off. And it's like some of these fly machines that you just destroy the device they're attached to, it'll just blow up to the robot with it, which is a cool way of handling enemies. You also have boss battles with freaking giant robots of different kinds. I like how unique they are in order to take down everything, although there is one thing that get annoying, which is those giant bosses can just wombo combo you, because you can get knocked down for a big enough hit, and it takes Dan so long to get back at a bad time. If a boss is so close and already knocked you down, it can potentially just knock you down again and require you to revive yourself, or have an ally revive you, and that can get freaking annoying to try to take down bosses, because it feels like no matter how far you run, you can't get away fast enough. But the boss fights are super cool and unique how they handle, with the fact that you can also try to figure out yourself how to defeat them, or your allies will start telling you advice on what to do against the bosses, which is super cool. Although I will say, bosses highlight how you, the player, are doing most, if not all the work in them, because I swear you can watch your allies just stand there and literally do nothing and take hits, and then they'll not do anything to help with the boss fight, probably because sometimes the boss fights to defeat them are very specific how to hurt them, so I guess your companions, the AI, doesn't really know how to handle them. Even if you tell them fire, sometimes they'll just won't listen to you, even with high affinity, and sometimes they will fire, but once again, they don't know how to target the exact weak point that needs to be hit.
Are you alright? Do you need my assistance is not needed? Please be careful. That is not top priority!
And speaking of your teammates helping you with commands, there are situations where your teammates may have suggestions on a plan. You can just shoot them down, but other instances you can follow their plan, and their ideas they have can be a good idea, although I had one instance where a plan completely failed entirely, and I'm like, right, god damn it. And there's an annoying aspect where you can agree to a plan, but if you don't do it the exact second after they tell you to do it, they make it annoyed, acting as if you're generally not doing that plan. I remember early on, Bo wanted me to grab a shield in order to pretty much watch what's enemies, try to take them out slowly, and I was trying to get the shield, but because the shield, I guess, was too far away from the action for the game's liking, Bo acted as if I was suddenly going against the plan, even though I was just trying to get the shield to start the plan. Like, Bo, come on, here's some leniency here.
I'll take care of the machine gun. Use your shield to draw their fire. That's just what I wanted to hear. Don't be such a pussy. Get out in front of that machine gun.
So there's some aspects where sometimes weird wonky aspects like that can happen, and I also hate the fact that your companions can walk in front of your bullet fire for some reason, and if they take a hit, it lowers the affinity because they blame you for it. It's like, bro, why are you walking in front of my bullets? What's wrong with you? Oh my god, pay attention! And there's that aspect, you just get a bit frustrating where sometimes the ally AI isn't the freaking best.
Situation fatigue!
You also have a shop where you can get stuff like whether it be weaponry, ammo, upgrades, etc., or upgrades to your character so you can equip their skill sets. Although you don't get a lot of spaces to really equip stuff, so early on you'll probably fill it out and maybe sometimes you'll swap things out, but other than that, not really at all. And the upgrades do help a lot, although I would just say prioritize Dan because you're doing all the work here, let's be real. But that's one aspect that is pretty cool. I like the fact that each character has their own specialty, although some specialties are a bit weird, like I'm just saying his Faye specialty being a sniper rifle in a game where most of your encounters are close quarters feels very weird to have. Oh, she's a sniper, great. Does that mean she's gonna not do much during firefights? Probably, and I kind of would aspect or one character later on whose specialty is a machine pistol, and it's like, great, could you do more than this machine pistol, please? So there's that kind of aspect where some of the weaponry they have doesn't really feel like it's the best suit for what's exactly going on, the kind of gameplay doing action to action with how close quarters combat is. So talking about boss battles and break times, there are also sections where you do have little set pieces to also help break up the monotony, although there's one section I remember with jet skis that can go burn in hell because the jet skis control completely awfully, so there's that section I didn't like, but the rest do help out, and you're still the main thing of the third-person shooter. There's the fact that now it's like, hey, maybe you're in the back of a vehicle, hey, maybe you're in a cart, or hey, maybe you're trying to help someone stall for time or something. Like stuff like that, that really helps out. I mentioned earlier you can buy stuff. One thing I don't like is the fact that you can buy an extra weapon, because that comes up to 4 weapons, being the assault rifle, a pistol, one type of throwable weapon, a grenade, typical grenades, and one extra gun. But buying the extra gun there feels worth it because of the fact that 1, you get it from enemies, and 2, I'm just saying, I mean, people buy a sniper rifle, I have no idea it'll be useful because this game is mostly close quarters combat. The snipers are powerful, but if I don't know or not out of distance or to really make use of it, it feels weird to, you know, get a sniper rifle when I don't know what I'm going to use it for. There's also the fact that only the main specialty weapon of each character can be upgraded, so buying like a shotgun or a sniper rifle means it can't be upgraded, so it'll probably have less ammo, less fire rate, less firepower sometimes than what you mainly have. So it feels like you're just more relying on your main weapon. Just want to prioritize that over everything else. Especially since your main weapon has a special ability of a static burst that can be done that, you know, you want to prioritize because it's a pretty useful ability in order to help you out, especially during boss battles. You can find stun bosses and really help you in a pinch. So stuff like that, that's really cool, but once again, it also means that the other weapons take a backseat to what is the main weapon you have, which is Dan's assault rifle. Time for some PC-only quirks, such as this game is clearly not made with mouse and keyboard in mind, because rather than giving you a cursor on screen for using a mouse, it's instead the feeling of the mouse is basically emulating that of like an analog stick. Like the mouse works great for aiming and shooting, granted sometimes it can feel like it's very sensitive, but for the menus, it is a bit awkward to adjust because you're basically trying to act like you're scrolling through with like a D-pad or analog stick, not an actual cursor. So it does feel weird in that aspect. There also are points where the game will press you to press M for something. It does not mean press M on the keyboard. It actually means press M1, press a left click for something, and that I found baffling. Even worse, there are times where the M is also used to represent mouse 2 and right click, and it's like sometimes like, why do you do this to me? Why can't you just say mouse 1 or mouse 2? And there's some times where you also just use ability, you use a scroll wheel button in order to use certain abilities that are like, okay, but why? Even without the PC only issues, this game suffers from this era of gaming's issue of so many things tied to one button. In this case, spacebar, where it's like, it allows how you run, that's how you go into cover, that's how you roll, that's how you swap from cover, which means pressing that button, you're not sure if Dan will do one thing or another, or pressing spacebar to go up ladders, and it just feels weird, that aspect, especially since there are points where I'll have you press a different key for certain interactables, and it's like, yeah, okay, well, couldn't that key binding be used for stuff like using a ladder rather than the space bar, which is make it awkward because that's where Dan will just start running, he'll dodge, or he'll instead try to go to cover and start using the damn ladder. So there's like stuff like that, like controls could have been better. Overall, I just really like Binary Domain and didn't expect this game to be this freaking cool, like this very cool ideas, and they worked relatively well. Granted, you know, the main feature of the voice commands didn't really work, which is going to be a big thing, especially as the voice commands are also set to work with multiple languages as well, which is super cool for them to implement. Think about like, okay, we got to combine several different languages in order for the voice command to work with, which is freaking awesome. I know this game does have its cult following, and those people love this game. It's an underrated gem that didn't get a spotlight, and it's weird because what I've seen, the game did review relatively well, but it just sold terribly. My goodness, when I looked up, I read some reports and said that it apparently sold like 20,000 copies in the US. And it's like, goddamn, because I felt like this kind of game, honestly, should have been up there. Should have been up there with the Gears of War. Should have been up there with Spec Ops The Line. Should have been up there with, I can't remember it again. I think it was called Brink. It was not the first-person parkour multiplayer game. Can't remember. No, Brink. That's what it's called. Brink. Should have been up there with that game too. And that game also has its own cult following. And I'm just surprised it wasn't up there back then. And wasn't like a bigger name. Like, cause this has so much cool stuff in it, and it's short runtime. And if I do lock chapter select, it means it's easier to go back at the stuff you missed as well and variations to events, which is freaking cool. And I'm just surprised it wasn't a bigger name, all things considered, with how cool that I'm. Granted, I'm part of the problem, Cody just put it right now. So clearly, I'm in fact part of the problem, but Binary Domain is freaking cool. And would it possibly do well for it to get a re-release nowadays? That, I don't know. I know Ryu Ga Gotoku Studios may have the star party of people check it out, and oh my god, they managed to remake like a Dragon issue, and that match to do well. So possibly they could re-release it and do well. Although they're doing that, can they also re-release Yakuza Dead Souls as well? Yakuza Dead Souls? Yakuza Dead Souls 2 as well. Get that re-release as well. But aside the point, Binary Domain, it's just way better than I thought it was gonna be, and just freaking cool. And I'm just, man, the fact that it's not up there with other specific third-person shooters around that era, I am baffled with. I'm also baffled that Uncharted, the first thing I came up with when it comes to third-person shooters in that era that got popular. But hey, just one surprising game not up there. It should have been up with Uncharted, with Gears of War, with Off the Lines, with also your freaking Brinks, even though Brink is a freaking first-person shooter. But you got the idea. It's just a cool game. That is all. That is freaking all. It's just a cool game, man.